Welcome everybody to the ARPA Day Committee meeting for Monday, January 9th. As always, I need to start with the rules of a public meeting. The meeting of the ARPA Day Transformational Committee are public meetings as defined by the Connecticut Freedom of Information Act and should follow these guidelines. As this public meeting is held virtually, it will be recorded and made available to view on the DDS website. Committee members must make a good faith effort to state their name and title if applicable each time they speak during the meeting. If a committee member would like to speak, please raise your hand and one of the co-chairs will acknowledge you. There is no public comment portion to this meeting. Members of the public are able to join, watch, and listen only. All right, we have the minutes from the 12/5/2022 meeting. Are there any additions, deletions to the minutes? Can I have a motion to approve the 12/5 minutes?
So moved.
So Beth moved. Do I have a second? Was that Varian?
Yeah, Varian Salters,
All right,
Self-Advocate
thank you.
Coordinator, North Region, Willimantic Office, and I second it.
Thank you. All right, we have some guest presenters today. Julia Oak from Deloitte, along with Amanda, I think, came on also. Yep. We'll be presenting, see what Deloitte's been up to with their work with ARPA. So I'll pass it over to you, Julia.
Great, and if could you enable screen sharing privileges? I'm not able to at the moment.
I could do that, yes, hold on.
Thank you.
Maybe while you're doing that, we could do a brief introduction. Thank you all so much for inviting us to your committee meeting. It's an honor to meet you. My name is Amanda Harris. I'm a principal with Deloitte, and I've spent most of my career working in or with government, health and human service agencies, and support Connecticut, but also a few other states across just Medicaid, long-term services and supports, and specifically on HCBS initiatives. So happy to be here, and I'll turn it over to Julia before we dig into the slides.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Julia Oak, and I'm on the team from Deloitte that's supporting the Moving On initiative, and I've supported a variety of projects in state and federal space, and I've done some work in HCBS as well. So great to be with you all today.
Well, Keith, is there anything you wanted to say before we jump in to talk about sort of our role on the project? Any context, or do you want us to go first?
No, I think if you can just jump in and kind of give them an overview of where we're going, and we got a lot coming up in the next couple of weeks. So, you know, just touch on those points. I think it would be great.
Great. All right. Again, this is Amanda Harris, and I want to kind of start off with just kind of level setting on the work that we've been asked to do. I think most of you are familiar with the Moving On initiative. And in October, we came on board to support DDS in, moving this project forward. And the way we sort of outlined the work that we would be doing from October through, part of 2024 is in sort of four buckets of work where we assess, design, plan, and then implement. And below on the slides, I kind of just want to talk about each of the phases and where we're at. I'll show you a timeline. And then what Julia will do is kind of go into a little bit more detail on what we've been able to accomplish since we started in October. And as Keith mentioned, January is a very busy month, and so we've got a lot of exciting activities that we'll share with you. But I'll kind of do some of the boring project parts, just to kind of highlight some of the work that we've decided to do over a certain period of time. So as some of the key components of our work will be, the first is what we call an assess phase. Anytime you're doing some type of transformation, you really want to make sure you understand what's happening in Connecticut with the services that are being provided, but also take the opportunity to look nationally to see what are other states doing, and is there any kind of leading practice that Connecticut should consider. And this is one of the phases we spent a lot of our time in, and we'll share a little bit more about what we found in that assess phase. As part of that work as well, in addition to doing research of Connecticut and other states, we're also going to supplement this sort of like knowledge of the current state with a lot of stakeholder interviews, and that's kind of where we're going to be spending a lot of our time in January, talking to stakeholders across, individuals with disabilities, providers, some of the state staff, et cetera. So we can talk a little bit more about that. Based on what we learned from that, we kind of move into what we call a design phase. So this is where we want to land on an approach to transformation, and also spend some time making sure that we nail down sort of like the payment framework. So we're not in the design phase yet, but we're getting close to moving there. The plan phase, this is, part of our work will also support creating all the guidance and communications needed to make sure providers understand what this transformation, program is all about. Also, what individuals with disabilities and their families, communicating with them on any kind of changes. So we'll support some of those. And then the implementation phase, this is where we continue to support providers with their transformations, and at the same time provide them with ongoing technical assistance. So as they move through the process, if they have questions, they can, our team will be here to help answer some of those questions. Now, the other phase of work, it's kind of not really a phase necessarily, but because there were so many providers that were excited about this transformation early on, we decided to run sort of like a parallel thread of initial wave. We call it an initial wave of providers. So these are sort of our pilot providers who said, hey, I'm ready to make some transformations right now. And I'd like to go forward without waiting. And so what our team has been doing, and Julia will share more details about, is understanding which providers are ready, and developing some of the initial guidance, including an application that they would have to fill out. We've been working with the regions on how would you review the applications to approve them. And we're working through how we're going to provide technical assistance along the way. So that's kind of like a parallel process that we'll be running. And Julia, if you move to the next slide. This is just a high-level project timeline. It is very small, but what we kind of wanted to show you is that, we started in October. We'll be providing some support through April of 2024. And as you can see by all of the sort of like lines, the colored lines there on the left-hand side, the heaviest work is in the phase that we're kind of in right now and through about May to June. That's when we're really going to try to nail down a lot of the details of this program. And from there, around June, July timeframe, we'll be more in like a technical assistance mode. So this is just a very high level timeline. And with that, I think we're going to turn it over to Julia to talk about some of the details, things that we've been able to accomplish since October, and then what's on our immediate runway for the month of January that we wanted to update you on.
Great, thanks, Amanda. And this is Julia Oak from Deloitte. So Amanda gave us a really nice high-level overview. So we're just going to dig a little bit deeper into each of the phases. And we've outlined for the phases that we've gone through thus far. We've kind of given you a sense of what we accomplished, any big work products or deliverables, just to kind of add a little bit more color to, what actually goes on in the design phase or the assess phase and things like that. So as Amanda mentioned, the assess phase is really, again, just kind of level setting, getting a sense for leading practices in other states, seeing if there's anything Connecticut could potentially use as inspiration, as well as really getting a good understanding for what the state of things is in Connecticut. And so the sort of three big work products within that is, the first is it's called a current state review. So in this report, we identified 5 states to really do a deep dive into, focusing on, what are they doing for residential services, day and employment supports, remote supports and assistive technology, and any interesting payment methodologies. And then also supplemented that with parallel focuses in Connecticut to really get a sense, Connecticut and the other states we focused on. So we're in the midst of finalizing that report. And that report focused the states that were selected to focus on was Arkansas, Delaware, Maine, Missouri, Pennsylvania. So the report's sort of formatted in, we have some recommendations up front, and then the bulk of the report is a lot of detailed information based on research. In addition to, we spoke with a variety of folks in the different DDS departments in states to be able to get more color behind what's available online. So that's sort of the big work product that we're working to wrap up now. And then, as Amanda mentioned, another big piece of the assess phase is getting stakeholder feedback and input. So we're doing that in 2 ways. The first is through a survey. So we're actually coordinating with folks from McDowell, which I think are also on the line and are going to share an update on providing a survey to both individuals and families that receive services, as well as DDS staff. And so this will be distributed widely via mail, just to, again, be able to reach a broader group of people. And then our team is also working on a survey to send out to providers as well. And again, this is just to get, kind of pressure test some of the findings that we found in the current state and be able to reach a greater group of people. And then the second way that we're working to get stakeholder feedback is through stakeholder input sessions. So this is going to be a big chunk of our time the next 2 weeks. We're hosting 5 sessions. The groups are individuals and families that receive services, providers, and DDS staff. And so we'll have those separated by day and residential. And so those will be a lot smaller. We're limiting it to around 20 people, and we'll do breakout rooms. And the thinking behind that is to be able to get a little more detailed conversation with a smaller group, and still maintain, an engaging atmosphere. And so that pretty much wraps up assess phase. I'm happy to kind of move on to some of the highlights for initial wave, but want to pause in case there's any questions or anything, Keith, you'd wanted to add.
Just with the provider stakeholder sessions, that DDS is not involved in that session. It's just the providers and Deloitte will be working together. And I see a question from Beth.
Yeah, thank you. Beth Fisher, CUNY Employment Opportunities. I was wondering if you could just briefly talk about why you selected the 5 states that you did, and how they compare or don't compare to Connecticut.
Yeah, great question. And Keith, feel free to jump in, but those states, when we were sort of developing the framework for the report, we identified sort of 12 candidate states, did an initial research on those 12 states, and then we presented some of those findings to DDS, and then we worked together to figure out which of the 12 we wanted to select. And it was based on similar size to Connecticut, how many individuals are served. So we tried to find ones that were similar, not, a state that's very, very, very different.
Thank you.
This is Amanda from Deloitte. The only thing I'd add to that is, we approached it not as we're going to find a state where we're going to take everything they do and apply it to Connecticut, but just trying to find even nuggets of helpful things that Connecticut should consider across a variety of components just to influence your process here.
This is Julie Oak from Deloitte, and I'm happy to keep walking through the other phase that we are actively in progress is. Oh, I see Robin has a hand up.
Robin, do you have a question?
Oh, sorry, I was blabbing away on mute. I was wondering how, whether you mentioned that you were allowing some agencies to move forward already before this is completed, and I was wondering if that option was advertised, throughout to all agencies, so that they knew that that was an option, or how those agencies even found out about it.
This is Julia Oak from Deloitte. So, and I think I can get at your question as I walk through this, Robin, and then I can, speak a little bit specifically if you still have questions after I run through. But as Amanda mentioned, the initial wave of providers sort of like a pilot as we're leading up to the full implementation for those that are ready and able and willing to begin the transformations. In terms of how this was advertised or how folks heard about it is there is a survey sent out, I believe through Everbridge, to all providers to indicate interest with both options for definitely would like to submit a plan, or I'm not sure and I'd like some more information. So that survey was sent out to all providers. And through that, we've then been coordinating with the regional offices to determine, what areas did a provider indicate they may want to transition, and then sent them the appropriate materials. In terms of what those materials look like, as Amanda mentioned, we have, a template and a form for residential services, day services, agencies that anticipate maybe needing to do a significant restructuring for individuals with significant needs. And then that all is accompanied by a financial planning sheet to kind of get at some of the budgetary planning that agencies may need to do. And so again, this phase is, we've just before the holidays, we sent out sort of the first chunk of templates to providers that indicated an interest, and then we're keeping this phase open all the way up to the end of March. The reason there being is after that is when we start the wave 2, or the more ongoing formal process. So it's open for providers to join at any time between now and March.
I just have one follow-up question. And how will that affect the overall funding for this program? Is this extra money, or is this money for these initial providers coming out of the total funds that were made available?
The money would be coming out of the total funds. We got a certain amount of money from the federal government to do this project, and we just broke it up into a phase 1 and phase 2 section.
Okay, thank you.
Beth, I believe you have another question?
I do. Thank you, Keith. Beth Fisher from CUNY. I'm wondering if all the providers who submitted the request to be part of this phase were accepted, because we submitted a request and I've not received anything at all about this. So are there still packets coming out, or was there a selection process? What did that look like?
Julia Oak from Deloitte. When you say selection process, are you saying in terms of approving plans or in terms of receiving packets?
Just choosing who is going to be part of the initial wave of providers phase.
So it's Julia Oak from Deloitte. The initial wave of providers is open to anyone who wants to participate. Some of the materials that you received, Beth, we're doing review windows. So in order to just enable resource office or regional offices to be able to plan review times and be able to staff that appropriately, we've set up review windows so that they can say, if a plan is submitted between December 1st and December 5th, you'll receive a response by December 20th. Those are all, just made those dates up. Those aren't, I can't remember the dates off the top of my head, but the regional offices, it may still be in that submitting phase. So I'm happy to connect with you offline if you'd like more information, but just given that will be time intensive for regional offices to review, we tried to do those windows just to make it them to be able to plan from a staffing perspective.
Okay, so just to make sure, so then I should be receiving something. We submitted prior to the holidays, so there are still some coming out, it sounds like.
Yeah, and Beth, this is Amanda Harris with Deloitte. So for this initial wave, we're kind of building the process as we go. So this week, we're actually also training the regions on how to review the applications that they're getting in. And so as Julia was mentioning, you should be getting a response. The regions should eventually be reaching out to the providers to kind of walk them through the process. We're just kind of doing a few things like building parts of the process right now and making sure everyone kind of knows what they're doing and because it's kind of new to everybody. Does that help?
I think so. So I'm talking about not a formal application, but the survey. We indicated we were interested, so that we're talking about the same thing.
Okay, and if you, Julia, this is Amanda, correct me if I'm wrong. If you've indicated an interest, you should have received a packet.
We did not.
Right now. Is that correct, Julia?
Well, yeah, that is correct. We'll follow up.
Thank you.
I can connect with you and follow up with the regional office.
Okay, is there contact for the regional office yet or not yet?
For the people we're coordinating with, this is Julia.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, I'm sorry, Beth Fisher from CUNY. Is there a point person in each region now identified for this process that we should be aware of?
This is Julia Oak from Deloitte. Yes, the regional resource administrator, I believe is the title.
Okay, thank you.
This is Keith Lavalette, DDS. We may have to look at that because I don't believe I recall seeing Beth's agency's name on that list of providers. So I don't know if something happened along the way. So we'll look into that.
This is Julia Oak from Deloitte. Keith, I'm aware of time. We're happy to go through the additional phases in more detail, but don't want to take up too much time on the agenda. So we're flexible.
No, go ahead. I think we can spend some time on it.
All right, so the phases I'm going to walk us through now, again, we're about to be entering them in the coming weeks and months. But after we've done the assess phase, we move on to the, sorry, my slides were messed up. The design phase. So that's really taking a look at, what our findings were, what did we hear from stakeholders, and using that to inform, what we might propose as potential options for Connecticut to pursue for moving on. And another big focus of this phase is looking at incentive programs. So again, this is where a lot of the information that we'll gather, especially from staff and providers, but being able to determine what potential outcome-based incentives might be as a part of the moving on program. So this is not started yet, but it's slated to begin in February after we complete the assess phase.
This is Keith Lavalette at DDS. I believe, Robin, your hand is raised. And you may be on mute.
Yep, sorry again. I just had a follow-up question. So we're not yet, we haven't even designed yet, but yet we're opening it up to anybody who wants to participate now. So theoretically, there could be no money left by the time this whole program actually gets designed and completed? Or am I missing something? I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of agencies who might be waiting for some of the questions to be answered that we've posed here and have yet to be answered before they, stick their toe in, and may not want to be part of it yet because it's not actually designed and decisions haven't been made. But I'm concerned that there's no limit on the number of agencies that could start now, and theoretically, then there could be very little money left when it finally is designed. Is that correct, or am I wrong?
This is Amanda with Deloitte. I may let Keith talk about anything related to the funding piece, but in terms of the timeline for design, we're kind of talking just a couple months, not a very long period of time. So right now we're looking for all the providers who are interested and ready, who think that they're ready to go, but they'll be working with the regions to really talk through what does that transition look like. Everyone will have, interpret, transformation a little bit differently in terms of what they're asking for. So I think we'll have a little bit of a parallel process. It's not going to be, I don't envision it being a whole lot of people happening up front right now, taking it all up, and then our design is just like coming later, and it's like preventing other people from joining in. Our design process will happen, in the next couple months. We should be landing near a model that folks can use.
And this is Keith Lavalette at DDS. And the agencies that are going forward now, they're looking to transform and move individuals from congregate settings into non-congregate settings, which are already established. So it's not something new. It's just something that we're able to start now with agencies that are able and willing to start now.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Julia.
Julia Oak from Deloitte. And then sort of the last phase that we have that will again be going for up through 2024 is the plan phase. And this is for the design phase, we think about a couple potential options and use that to really plan and determine what we may choose to do for the transformation. And through this, we're helping providers through technical assistance and office hours just to provide some additional support once we envision what we will have more providers joining. Once, to your point, Robin, is a little bit more certainty as to what things might look like in the long term. So this is helping with implementation work plan and really just supporting to get things off the ground. So we can move on to the implement phase, which will be the longest phase of the project. And then sort of connected to that, again, as I mentioned, is the implement phase. So this is once we have the design determined, we have all of the templates and processes finalized, once we've taken some lessons learned from the initial wave and really using that to work with providers through technical assistance, and just continuing to support as needed over the long term through 2024. And that concludes our overview. Happy to take any additional questions from the group, or if Keith, there's anything you wanted us to loop back to.
I see, Robin, your hand is raised. I'm not sure you took it down from the last question.
Sorry, I took it down.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right, great. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Julia. Appreciate.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So next on the agenda, we have our McDowell communications consultant, Maura. I believe you're on here. Actually, let me make you a presenter. Hi, Maura. Would you like to introduce yourself to the committee, and then we can.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Maura Fitzgerald. I am from McDowell Communications Group, which is a communications firm in Hartford, Connecticut. Happy New Year to everyone, and thank you for having me on this meeting. I think this is the first time I've been in one of the day committee meetings, so it's nice to meet you all virtually, and I look forward to working with you all. I have been involved in and out of government for pretty much most of my adult life, and have done a significant amount of work with state agencies, including the Department of Public Health and Department of Social Services. So it's nice to be able to do some work with Department of Developmental Services as well. My colleague Becca Brockway wasn't able to be on the call tonight, but she is also working with me on this project, as are a few other people at McDowell Communications Group. And really what we're charged with is helping DDS with the communications piece of this transformation project. And so kind of whereas Deloitte is more on the provider side of things, we are more on the individuals and family side of things, and the DDS employee side of things, and explaining the transformation project and getting people bought into what is going on. So we've been on the project since November of last year, and have gotten up to speed fairly quickly. And we're working on right now kind of 3 big projects. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about them. The first is we've created a survey. I think Julia might have touched on it briefly. We created a survey that just got mailed out last Thursday. It went to the post office, so it should start hitting people's mailboxes today, tomorrow. Some might have gotten it over the weekend. But this is a survey that's going out to about 9,100 individuals served by DDS. And I believe the criteria were that they were individuals that are currently in residential support programs, and then in day congregate setting programs. The survey it's a short one. It's about 15 questions, and that includes a couple of demographic questions in there. It was sent out by mail, and it was in English and in Spanish, and also includes a link. So if people don't want to fill it out by paper and return it, we also put a stamped envelope in there so people could return it without having to worry about having to use a stamp and that sort of thing. But we also have a web address if people want to take the survey online. So people should start getting those, like I said, this week. And we've asked people to return them back to us by the 30th of January. There's going to be a reminder postcard in English and Spanish that goes out probably towards the end of next week, just gently reminding people to fill out the survey if they haven't done it yet. So, and the point of the survey is to kind of gauge where the individuals and families that are receiving supports from DDS are right now with the transformation project. Kind of what do they know about it? How do they feel about it? And how do they feel about the possibilities of, having supports that will allow them to live more independently? So that is what we're trying to do, so that we can get a baseline of where people's attitudes are. And then we will do the survey again at the end of this year to see how our communications may have moved people's perceptions of the project and people's knowledge of the project. So I would just ask for people on the call, if those of you who deal with individuals or families who are receiving DDS supports, if you get any questions, I'm happy to send you the survey so you can see what it looks like. And it came with an intro letter. But you know, if people are questioning this piece of paper that they've gotten in the mail, it is a legitimate survey from DDS, and it's important to us that we get as many responses back as possible, so that we can get a good sense of where people are at with the transformation project. So that's a big thing that we're doing. Hopefully we're going to have the results of that by the beginning of February. And we're happy to share that with all of the committees. The other thing that we're working on is we're working to put together a series of 7 very short videos, 3 to 4 minutes long each, that will showcase different technologies and assistive supports that will help people to live more independently. And the topics that were identified by DDS that they wanted us to do videos on were supportive housing, individualized home supports, assistive technology, community companion homes, customized employment, remote supports, and self-direction. So we're working with a video production company and trying to put those together. Each video is going to have a short introduction, hopefully by the commissioner. Then there'll be a demonstration of the technology or the support that's being featured. And we will also have testimonials from the individual who's doing the demonstration, of, you know, family members. It could be a support person who's helping them, just to kind of get not only the positives of the technology, but also to talk a little bit about, you know, what the fear might have been going into using a new technology and how they overcame that fear, like what independence or advantage has it brought to their lives, and also for family members or support people, what has it allowed them to do. And the goal is really to hopefully to show people what the possibilities could be, and to have people be able to envision some of these supports for their family members or for themselves. I think some of the feedback that we've gotten is families and individuals are generally very supportive of technology and supports and things that will allow people to lead more independent lives, lead more lives more fully integrated into their communities. But a lot of people don't see that for their own family member or see that for themselves. They see this is great for other people, but maybe not for me, maybe not for my family member. So our goal is really kind of hopefully to get people to see that these are possibilities potentially for their family members or for themselves. We are hoping to start rolling out those videos towards the end of February, the beginning of March, which means we have to start filming them in January. So we're working with DDS right now to identify individuals and families and locations where we could film these videos. But again, if anyone has any suggestions or knows of anyone who might be interested in helping us out with this, I'd be more than happy to talk to you and get some feedback on that. We are also working on putting together a newsletter that would go out, I believe, to DDS employees, to individuals, to families, to kind of the whole community, that would kind of summarize the work of each of the transformation committees and what you all have done thus far. And then moving forward, I believe the newsletters would come out bi-monthly, just to provide people with updates on the work of the committees and the work of the general transformation process. And finally, we're working on putting together an overall communications plan that will kind of take us through this whole process and, you know, really kind of help the commissioner and the department and Deloitte and providers communicate in an easy fashion kind of how this is going to roll out and what's going to happen as it moves forward. So those are the big things that we're working on, and I'm happy to take any questions you have or get any feedback from y'all that you might have.
Thank you, Maura. Beth.
Hi, Maura. Beth Fisher from CUNE Employment Opportunities. I have a question about the survey that went out. So if I understood, there's 9,100 going out and they're really targeting individuals being served in congregate settings, correct? And so when I think about who some of those individuals are at our agency, there's a pretty high percentage that are nonverbal. And I'm just wondering if there was any thought given to how to really solicit input without just the residential staff or the family member filling it out for them. I'm just struggling to understand how some of our individuals would really be fully engaged in that.
Sure. And this is Maura Fitzgerald from McDowell Communications Group. We are anticipating that not all of the surveys will be answered by the individuals. There might be some that are answered by their family members. And in the instructions that come with the survey, we have asked that they answer the questions with the individual in mind. And the demographic questions, we've asked that they're answered according to the individual, not, if it's a family member, if a male family member was filling it out for a female, in the demographic questions, they would put female, not male, that sort of thing. So I don't know if that answers your question, but we're kind of, we're kind of seeing the individuals and the families as kind of one unit. So we could get responses from individuals, or we could get responses from the family members. We're kind of, because we have to communicate with both and have them both bought in. So we're taking responses from whomever sends it in. And I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Beth Fisher from CUNE, it definitely helps. I appreciate that. I think in some cases, there may be different desires from family members and individuals. And I don't know there's a way to get at that, but I think it's just worth noting.
Yeah. And this is more from McDowell Communications Group. Yeah, we talked through that, and it was for time and whatnot. We kind of went with what was best. And I should say, and I don't know if this answers the nonverbal portion of this, but on the questions where it's kind of like, strongly agree to strongly disagree, in addition to words, we do have pictures next to things. So, hopefully that will be helpful to people who do better with pictures than they do with words. And we kept the language very as simplistic as we could.
Keith Lavalette, DDS. Catherine, you have your hand raised?
I did. So one of mine was a similar question to Beth's. I would believe and advocate that many people's families don't always represent them or what they want in the same way. And do you at least know when a family is completing the survey versus the individual in the way the survey is designed?
This is Maura from McDowell. I don't believe that we do. I don't think that we can differentiate between an individual who is responding and a family member who is responding. And part of that is because the survey responses are anonymous. So, and that's the way surveys are done. It helps to encourage people to participate when they know that their name is not attached to their responses. But also, as I said, when in terms of we're doing this survey really for our communications efforts and kind of to see where families and individuals stand in terms of their attitudes towards the transformation, and then see over the course of this year how those attitudes move. So, so for the purposes of the survey, the survey isn't, it's, the questions aren't like, would you prefer this particular type of support? They're very kind of general, like attitudinal questions, if that makes sense. So, so we didn't, there wasn't a way for us to distinguish between individuals and families. And from a communications lens, we're communicating with both of them and kind of communicating the same. We might be communicating it in using different modalities and things, but the messaging will kind of be the same for individuals and for families.
Thank you. And for people, this is Kathy Dupree again, for people who live in group residential settings, is it being mailed to them or to their guardian or family member?
This is Maura from McDowell. I believe it is the mailing list went straight from DDS to the mail house. So, so I can get the answer to that from DDS and let you know. My understanding is that the surveys were mailed to, there's a term, I forget, but it's basically like they were mailed to the person who is the kind of the responsible entity.
So that would be the guardian, not the individual.
Yeah. So if an individual has a guardian, I guess the survey went to the guardian. And if the individual is the one who is responsible for making their decisions, then it went to that person. But it has something to do with, DDS was the one who produced the mailing list, and it has to do with how they have things set up in their system. I'm not really quite sure how they did that.
Thank you.
Keith Lavalette, DDS. Robin?
Yeah, I just wanted to let everyone know that I received one of those surveys today, and there is a question that asks, are you the person receiving support or are you a family member? So it doesn't, obviously they won't know who I am, but at least it asks that. And also it came to me at my address. My daughter lives in a group home. So it came to me. I don't know if she also received one there, but I just wanted to let you know that I received it today. So just to add to the conversation. So.
Thank you, Robin. Any other questions for Maura? All right. Thank you very much, Maura. Appreciate it.
Thank you all. It's very nice to meet you.
Oh, we have a Jennifer. You have a question.
I do. Keith, it may actually be more for you, I guess, to Beth's question about who it was sent to and whether it was sent to the individuals versus the family. The answer was that it goes to the guardian. But at this point, would DDS consider sending it to the individuals themselves? Because I think that that's an important piece. As Robin said, she's not sure that her daughter received it. If we're leaving out the individuals, I think that's really against our principles of inclusion.
Yeah, all I had heard was it went to 9,100 people. I don't know exactly how that system of DDS works. I'd have to go back and find that out and find out if it went to the individual group homes also and the individuals themselves.
Yeah, sorry, I should have said this is Jennifer from UCP Eastern Connecticut. But I really think that that's an important component. If we're only sending to guardians and family members, then we have done ourselves and the individuals a disservice.
I would agree.
Maura, did you have a
Yes, this is Maura from McDowell. I was just looking back through my notes. Apparently in the DDS database, they have a field for responsible party. So that's what they checked. So if the responsible party is the individual, it would go to the individual. If the responsible party is a guardian, my understanding is it would go to a guardian. However, from what the DDS people said when we were kind of going through this universe of people, the vast majority of the people were the individuals, not guardians. So I think the guardians were, according to them, was a smaller subset of people, but the individuals themselves should be getting a fair amount of the surveys. And I know that the surveys were going out to individuals in the group homes, because one of the things that we had to do with the mail house, because they get the mailing addresses, they have to kind of make sure, oftentimes they deduplicate lists. So we had to say to them, no, when you see one address and, 6 or 7 names, you have to send it to each of the, send, 6 of them to the same address. It's going to 7 different people. So I know that there was a good amount that went out to individuals in group homes.
This is Keith Lavalette at EDS. Varian, you have a question?
Yeah, I was just gonna say I agree with sending out to the individuals.
Okay, thank you. Keith Lavalette, DDS. Catherine?
I just wanted to make the same point. And I think that DDS has the capacity to mail to individuals, even though the first default may be to guardians. And I'm glad more that a number went to people in CLAs, but a lot of people in CLAs do have guardians. And so in all likelihood, given the protocol and procedure you talked about, they did not get them directly.
This is Maura from McDowell. I'm more than happy I'll follow up with the people at DDS who put together the list and try to get a better explanation for you as to, how many of them went to guardians and how many of them went to residents. So I'll definitely circle back with you and let you all know.
Thank you, Maura. Anybody else have a question? All right. So this next one is just real quick. I think it was already discussed in the meeting today, but the update on phase 1, there are 21 providers that have put in that they're interested or will be putting in plans for the transformational plans. And if Beth may have maybe 22, if because I don't think you were on it, if my memory serves me correct. Out of those providers, 11 basically said that they were very interested in putting in plans going forward, and the rest are looking into it. So we're hopeful that this gets off and it gets rolling. So we're excited about this. The number of providers at this point are good. So we're thinking it's a good start to get this transformation plan moving forward. All right, the next. The next part I just wanted to discuss were potential barriers from moving individuals from congregate settings to employment. This is a list that we came up with, and we just want to start adding to it, discussing what concerns providers, families have moving individuals out of the congregate settings into an employment settings. You want to take a minute and look at that. And Catherine, I can't see if people raise their hands, so if you could if you could see, could you see if people are raising hands or anything?
This is Beth from Kuhn. I have my hand raised.
Oh, sorry, Beth, I was on mute. Yes, I saw your hand go.
So, so Beth Fisher from Kuhn. I think it's a pretty comprehensive list. The only thing I thought we had talked about that I didn't see it there was just the staffing crisis. I think that's the elephant in the room. I think it should be on the list.
You're right. That should be on the list. Any other? Robin, you have your hand raised?
Can you, this is Robin Hescock. Could you put the list back up again?
Sure. Maybe not. Oh, there it is. And I could send this to everybody after this meeting to give you guys some time to look at it. I know it's the first time you've been looking at it, so we could also bring it up at our next meeting.
This is Robin. Oh, sorry. I just is this so this is a different list than the list that we generated with the concerns that we had from this group. Is that correct?
This is a new list on the barriers to move individuals from congregate settings. Yes.
So our list is still there's a second list. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
we're trying to keep one list at a time. So
what so where did these concerns come from?
These are just lists. These are things that we came up with as co-chairs to come up with to kind of start a conversation and see what other people may have that we could add to this list.
Okay, so the issues that we brought up, including the issue of the funding not covering the entire 30 hours, is still on a list somewhere.
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
that's still there.
Okay, all right. Are you going to consolidate all the issues
Yes,
into one list at some? Okay, all right. Thank you.
And Robin, I think on this list that was in some ways captured by families' concerns about support if their child is unemployed for any period of time, and also the fact about people's need to be supervised throughout the day. But I think we could be clearer about the funding for that.
Right, because I interpreted the unemployed one of being that they get laid off or the job is no longer available, as opposed to there's only enough funding for them to work 12 hours one-on-one, and right. So the other 18 hours they don't have any funding.
Right, which is sort of the bullet above, but again, I think we can clarify that it has to do with the funding for that, right? That
yes,
families and individuals need that whole day funded, right? Regardless of what part of it is work. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions? I have a schedule of meetings. For all public meetings, we're supposed to do an annual schedule of meetings. So I'd like to propose that we continue on the same schedule, the first and third Mondays for the entire year. And if there's holidays in there, then we just cancel those meetings. But I would need that to be approved by this committee. So could I have a motion that we move forward with the first and third Mondays at 4 to 5:30 meeting time going forward?
Amber Carter, so moved.
Varian, a second?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everybody. So our next meeting is January 23rd at 4 p.m. And is there any other questions or concerns from the members?
Beth has a question.
Oh, it's not a concern, it's just a question. I had typed earlier in the chat box, would you be able to send out the Deloitte and McDowell presentations to the committee, PowerPoints?
Yes, I'll send the Deloitte presentations along with the questions on the day program congregate settings.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right, thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Hope everybody has a good couple of weeks.